So if we're not mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally growing and expanding year after year after year after year, then it's indicative of the fact that there's some unhealthy stuff going on. The body is trying to work with you and for you. It's not trying to work against you. But a lot of us have this mindset of like, "Ugh, it's me against my body." So where did New Year's resolutions come from? Ever ask yourself that question? If we want to live these abundant, beautiful lives, we have to learn how to value rest. And what better time of year to learn how to practice rest than in winter season? Are we our providers, or is God our provider? And do we
Right.
need as much as we think we do, or can we really learn to live as God instructs us, one day at a time, trusting that we have everything that we need? Now, intuition and instinct can be two different things, right? We can have instincts that have been programmed by trauma and hurt and grief and fear, and we can mistake that for intuition. But true, pure intuition is deeply spiritual. A lot of the suffering that we have in our life is because we are not giving ourselves permission to rest enough. And we're back. It is the last episode of the year, Mariah.
Wow, what a journey.
It has been such a journey, hasn't it been?
It really has, but we're here and just looking back at everything we've been through to get here, it's a journey. It's great though.
You know, I was thinking about it this morning when I was praying about our this last episode, and I was thinking about how far you've come and how much you've grown just in the last few months being a part of this podcast. And I know I've told you this in private, but I also want to acknowledge it in public. I'm so proud of you. You've put so much time and energy into editing these episodes and showing up almost every week. And you've grown so much, not just in how your presence is on these podcasts, but even in your personal life. Like, I'm watching you make really big, bold, brave choices and experiencing such fruit in response to that. And I just think it's so beautiful to see you grow so much in such a short period of time. And it's being a part of this podcast that was the thing that kind of brought back into play some things that you had maybe been a little neglectful in before that. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely. I feel like I'm being challenged and pushed more, not necessarily even by you, just my own personal conviction and my own will and wanting to grow is really pushing me out of my comfort zones. Whereas it's different than ever before. So thank you. I received that and I agree.
Well, I'm not the only person who said it to you.
Right.
You FaceTimed me when I was at lunch with my mom a few weeks back, and my mom was just singing your praises, like,
Yeah.
acknowledging how much you've grown. And your mom, I got to hang out with your mom this weekend because you guys invited me to your ugly Christmas sweater party, which I had such a blast at. But, your mom acknowledged how much you've grown also in recent months. And so it's
Yeah.
not just my opinion, it's fact. People have noticed. And I want to kind of even shed some light on this because I think it's important for our friend who's listening. But you had gone through the Living Beautifully life coaching program, and you had grown so much through that process.
Mm.
And then you lost that weekly accountability, you lost that sense of connection and community. And it's not that you reverted back to a ton of old tendencies, but you definitely started to kind of coast.
Hmm.
Right. And then you had a baby, and that's totally normal. You have to kind of find a new rhythm when any major life transition happens.
Yeah.
But I think what's really stirred up that internal conviction for you to hold yourself accountable and to do better, because you know better. So it was like, okay, I know better. Now I got to do better. It's been the community with me and Bethany. It's been the talking about this every week. You're editing these, it's, multiple days throughout the week. So it's the information is being repeated. You're hearing about it a lot, and you're in fellowship, you're in community with women that are living it and encouraging you to do it the same. And so it's that community component that is so important. So again, I'm looking at you, my friend. And if you're listening, I'm talking to you, my friend. I can't stress enough the importance of it is so great to have you here listening or watching these podcasts. We are so thankful for that. Actually, I learned something really exciting this morning that I wanna share with you, Mariah, about our listening audience, but I can't reiterate this enough. Listening is not enough. Listening is not gonna help you integrate it. It's great to hear it. It's great to come back every week and hear these conversations, and some of this stuff is very repetitive, but Tony Robbins says repetition is the mother to mastery. So we have to repeat things. It's those reps that help build us mental and emotional and relational strength, spiritual strength. But it's the community that will help you get to places that you cannot get alone. There are places in your life that you cannot get to on your own. And so having someone come in and counsel or coach you, but also having community that you can be a part of is pivotal. And you guys have witnessed it in Mariah's life just in the last few months. If you've been with us from the beginning, you've watched this beautiful young woman blossom in the last few months. And the big thing was the repetition, hearing it over and over and over again, talking about it over and over and over again, and being a part of a community that she was being very intentional with. So if you haven't yet signed up for the holding space, that is a free offer that we've created. It's a monthly virtual gathering for women, 90 minutes through Zoom. Go to beautifulasAlifestyle.com and reserve your spot today. So many of you have already signed up. I literally was thinking and praying about it this morning. I'm so excited to get to meet some of you guys in person and see your faces, because
Mhm.
I know some of you that are listening because you share with me that you're listening, but there are way more of you that are listening that I have no clue who you are. So I really hope that I get to see you at the holding space in January. So Spotify is where we put the podcast on, and then through Spotify, it also is on Apple Podcast, okay? And then also YouTube. But Spotify did like a little 2025 recap of our podcast. And so
Mhm.
I was taking a look at that this morning because I was curious. And so the number one listening country is the USA, which doesn't surprise me because that's where all our people are, is well, most of
Mm.
our people are in the USA. Do you know what the second country with the greatest listening is for our podcast?
Nope, I don't.
Nigeria.
Interesting.
So, to
Huh.
our Nigerian friend or friends who are listening, it is such an honor to have you here. I actually have so much respect for Nigerian women and men, and every Nigerian that I've ever met has such devout faith and are such joy-filled, family valuing people. So when I saw that, I was so shook. I was like, "What? Nigeria is our number 2 country?" But also I was so honored that you find value here and that you keep coming back, so thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you in the holding space.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I would have never guessed.
Me neither. I would have thought maybe Canada because I have family up there. Maybe Australia, because my best friend in Australia is out there. So, speaking of friends who listen, I wanted to take a moment and thank you before we jump into today's episode, which I'm so excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about wintering and why it's so important at this time of year to do the opposite of what culture tells us to do, which is set New Year's resolutions and hit the ground running January 1st, new year, new you. That all of that is a bunch of poo poo, and we poo poo
Mhm.
on it together. And we're going to
Poo-poo.
explain why. And I've done quite a bit of preparation for this episode, and I'm very excited for what we're going to offer you. But before we do that, we wanted to send some thank yous to some of you who have been really faithful listeners. And I know that we're not going to thank all of you because we don't know who all of you are. But for those of you who have been messaging us or leaving comments in the comments or talking to us personally, I just wanted to say thank you, because we started this a few months ago and it was for me truly an act of obedience. And I had a history of doing this in 2023, and it was not a pleasant experience, and there was nobody that was listening, and it was very discouraging, and I did give in to defeat, but when the Lord kept pressing on me to start this back up, I knew I didn't wanna do it alone, and I'm so thankful for Mariah and Bethany. Bethany should be back with us at the beginning of the year, and it's been such a fun experience. It's been so life-giving this time,
Yeah.
and I've enjoyed working with you, Mariah and Bethany, so much, and I think even if we had nobody listening, just the relationships we've been growing and the fun we've been having together would make it worth it. But the fact that women are listening, and when we first started, we would have maybe 1 to 4 listeners per episode, but now it's like 20 to 30 listeners per episode, so you guys are listening, and you're obviously liking what you're listening to, and you're coming back every week, and you know what? I don't take that lightly. I know that if you were just doing it to support me, Mariah, or Bethany, you wouldn't be coming back as frequently. So, and the feedback we're getting from you guys is that you're loving these conversations. You're taking them seriously. You're hearing things that are shifting the way you think about life or giving you hope in areas that you felt hopeless in. And so you're finding such value in these conversations. I've even had friends say, it feels like we're pulling up a seat at the table and just, listening in on the conversation. And I'm like talking with you guys when I'm listening to you guys. And I love that because that's exactly the feeling that I was hoping to create for you when you were listening to this podcast. So we want to say, Mariah, you want to say some thank yous to some people? That you that
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, so the people I know of that I wanna give a shout out to and say thank you so much for listening and your support is Brianna, my lovely sister,
Rihanna.
Alicia, my
Um,
other lovely sister, sister-in-law, but sister, all the same, um, and my mother, Leslie. As we know, she's a huge supporter. Is there anyone else I'm forgetting from the list of my
mm-mm,
side?
mm-mm,
Yeah,
no.
that's all.
Yeah, and also, Leslie, we've already thanked you for this so many times, but, without Leslie, Mariah would really probably not be able to be here because Leslie watches her son every week, and Leslie watches her son even in the time that Mariah puts into editing these episodes. So Leslie is kind of part of the crew. And
Yeah.
so you're not only supporting us by tuning in every week and sharing it with your friends, but even just caring for Benny is you're such a valued team member, Leslie. So thank you. I wanted to give a shout out to Linda, my mom. I think she's probably like the first person to listen to every single episode that comes out. She truly is my biggest support. And I'm so thankful for her intentional support and care for me in pursuing what she also thinks is, the call of God on my life. I really appreciate you, Mom. Glenda, Grace, Miranda, Sarah Lee, Jackie, Lori, and Trina. I've heard from all of you guys that you've listened to multiple episodes and how they've touched you. And so I just wanted to thank you guys for sharing your time with us every week. And we hope that you keep pulling up a seat at the table. And we hope that we'll see you in the holding space next year so we can actually spend some live time together with you. That's it.
Yes. So
Yeah. So let's just jump right in.
sounds good.
Okay, I've been quite ill this week, actually. This is like my first day back to somewhat normalcy. So if it is a little bit of a choppy episode, it's just because 'cause we're pausing and cutting my coughing fits out.
There you go.
So we just ask you for some grace with that, but I did take all of the meds, so we should be good, and then I'm gonna crash after this one. So, okay, what I wanna offer you is a new way to look at the beginning of a new year. Growing up, Mariah, what was your history with New Year's resolutions like?
Do it for like couple weeks, whatever I was planning to do, and then totally just fail. Like it's gone. It's done. It's not a thing anymore. I was that typical gym membership resolution girl. Go to the gym for like 3 weeks and then not use it and still pay for it for like half of the year. so terrible. Or like changing my mindset all of a sudden for a New Year's resolution and then totally just not typical, you know?
Yeah. I I I tend to be a little extravagant in everything that I do. I'm working at not doing the most all the time, but, like, I would just, like, have this whole plan of, like, how I was gonna like, change my whole life, everything, like, my physical health, my career, my spiritual like, everything, relationship, like, everything. I'd come up with this, like, plan, and
Yeah.
then, like, I would literally do nothing to achieve the plan. I, like, loved the planning process, but the activation process of the plan, no, I was not very good at executing the plan.
Yeah.
And then I went through this phase where I was just like, "Screw New Year's resolutions," like, because they just make me feel worse about myself, and I never follow through anyways, and I, like, boycotted the New Year's resolution, but it was more from a place of defeat than
Mm,
from a place of, like, authenticity.
right.
Yeah. So, but many years ago, as I started learning more about how, we're seasonal and cyclical beings, which we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about much more in the new year. In fact, we're going to talk about this in the Sacred Pause meetup in January, as well as the Holding Space meetup in January, is the fact that we are, as human beings, we are cyclical beings, we are seasonal beings, and as women, even more so.
Yeah.
In fact, as a woman, we go through 4 seasons every month because of our hormones.
Mhm.
So, there are 4 seasons to a year, but then as women, we go through 4 seasons every month. And when you are trying to sustain the same level of productivity 24/7, 365, you're not living connected to your natural seasonal cyclical rhythm. And that can be part of why we experience the weariness and the burnout that we do. That can be part of why we struggle with um, feeling frustrated with ourselves or like we're not measuring up. And we can struggle with a lot of self criticism. And the problem is not that we're not functioning the way we should. The problem is that the expectations of how we should be functioning are not realistic.
Yeah.
And when I started to learn about this, everything, I literally am not exaggerating. Everything in my life started to change. So my question for you, the listener, is this. And I wrote things down because I'm on day 1 of my cycle and I've been really sick for the last few days. So I'm gonna probably be looking at my notes more than normal because my brain is so foggy today
Yeah.
and I wanna stay on track here. Today's not a high functioning day for Tanya. Um, but we're here and we're doing our best. Okay. So this is the first question I want you to ask yourself. What if not feeling motivated right now is actually wisdom and not weakness? It's the end of the year, this winter time. Plus, you just gave a big push to get through the holidays. All the social get togethers, all the cooking and the baking and the shopping, and a lot of energy was exerted this year and in this specific holiday season. And now it's New Year's week, or maybe you're listening at the beginning of the new year. And that lack of motivation that you're feeling, it is not a sign of laziness. It's your body's wisdom inviting you to slow down and do what it naturally needs to do in order to recharge. We'll get into that. Something I want you to consider is this: winter is for rest, reflection, and integration. It's not a time for launching new things or creating intense forward motion. I mean, simply think about nature. What happens in winter? We're not
Mm,
out there planting seeds. We're not expecting a bountiful harvest.
yeah.
Everything honestly looks dead. Except if you live in California, that's the only time we have green grasses in the wintertime.
Yeah. But our trees.
But our trees look super dead. Yeah, and I remember years ago, this is probably like 9 years ago, I was sitting in a parking lot spending time with the Holy Spirit, and I was in a really difficult season. I was in a winter season. This was not just like winter. This was an extended season of my life that was like winter. And the Lord pointed out to trees and he said, "Look at the trees. Don't they look dead?" And I said, "Yeah, they look absolutely dead." And he goes, "But this is the time that the roots grow deep. And the deeper the roots grow, the stronger the tree becomes, and the more further reach the branches can expand."
Yeah.
Wintering is not a time for, you know, major growth and productivity. Winter is a time for renewal, rejuvenation, and it's a season where we focus on our roots. What does that mean to you?
To focus on the roots is, to me, to look more inward and to focus on a lot of the deeper things. Not that you don't do that throughout the year too, but really like honing in and focusing and reflecting, self-reflecting. And yeah,
Yeah. So even just seasonally, even just rhythmically, this is not the time to be setting New Year's resolutions. There is a time for that, but it's not right now. And then the other thing that I want you to consider is what might shift in your life if you let go of the expectation to function the same way every day, all year long.
yeah, sounds exhausting.
Yeah, but we do it, we do it.
Mhm.
And then when things come up, like hormones come up that wanna take us out for a few days, we just jump on the birth control or we try to control our bodies so that we can become these robots that can just push through and power through whatever life puts us through.
Yeah.
It's very dehumanizing, and we're gonna go into this more in the new year, but it also causes us as women to pull on that masculine energy, that
Mm,
masculine strength. Which we can do, we can absolutely do it, but when we start living from that place, it becomes very draining because as a woman, our power actually comes from pulling from our femininity. We feel really powerful and empowered when we're tapped into our feminine flow. And that is yielding to the fact that we are cyclical beings that live in seasonal rhythms. And so in this episode when I want you to really think about this drive that we have, this cultural expectation that we take upon ourselves to push through 24/7 365, but how it actually disrupts our emotional health, it increases burnout, it affects our hormones negatively, and it creates a lot of internal conflict and relational disconnection. And that's not an all-inclusive list of the ramifications of having this expectation to perform the same way day after day after day after day. So, it's gonna be a good episode. It's, I think, a gracious way to end the year because we're inviting you to relax. We're inviting you into a season of intentional and active rest. It's not a time to check out. We're not saying check out. We're not saying numb out. There's a difference, okay? Because active rest, everything is resting, but it's active and it's preparing for the next season. What
mm,
happens in winter determines what comes in spring,
yeah.
and then what summer looks like, and then what happens in the harvest, right? It's where the roots grow, it's where the soil rejuvenates, it's where the animals get their rest and regain their strength for the next season, right? And we're part of God's creation and it's all a part of God's design. And we have fallen so far from this natural rhythm. And you can see it in how sick society has become. And I think this is one of the reasons why so many women struggle with mental, emotional, relational, physical health issues.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to add to that before we jump in?
There's so many thoughts going through my mind. I loved learning about this. It was first of all, I never heard of it in my life until I learned about it in coaching. And when I actually started to integrate it, and that's why I said I miss my cycle. But you tell me I can still live cyclically even without my period every month, but, like, having that and my hormones are just, like, in alignment with that every month, I just miss it because it feels so empowering and it feels like such a cool way to live.
No. One of the weird things that might happen to you as you continue journeying with Living Beautifully and taking on the Living Beautifully culture is that you will learn to love your monthly cycle and not dread it, and you won't judge it, and it won't feel like this thing that you're fighting against every month. Like, you will actually learn how to connect with it in a way that is very empowering. So when Mariah's talking about how she misses her cycle, it's because she hasn't gotten it back yet since she had her baby. She as a tear rolls down her cheeks. Yeah, and I mean, I'm, like, 42, and I have people who are talking about, like, perimenopause and stuff, and they just can't wait to be done with their period, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I every month I started today, and I'm like, "Hello, my friend, you're back," Like, I'm like, yes, it's that time of the month, and I love it. But we're not going to talk about cycle syncing today. We're not going to go there. We will go there in the new year. I really want to focus on wintering because that's what is appropriate for now because we're starting a new year. And a lot of the time, we want to hit the new year running. We maybe get a
Mm,
week off for Christmas or for New Year's from work, and then we just hit the ground running second week of January with New Year's resolutions and all of this stuff. And that's participating in that status quo is part of what is creating a culture of wearied women. And that's what I want to expose in today's episode is why we don't want to do that. It is the last week of December. A new year starts this week. There is this cultural pressure, new year, new you, that we've either succumbed to or that we, like me, have rebelled against because screw that, it just makes me feel like a failure. And there's a completely different way to approach this time of year. In fact, in 2023, I had created a 31-day self-care immersive experience and I guided 33 women through it. It was just the first month of January, and the whole focus was self-care ESPM, right? It was such a beautiful experience that I got to share with these women. And one of the women at the end of this experience said that one of her biggest takeaways from that self-care experience was that every January, she always felt the urge to slow down and do less social stuff and do less busy stuff and not work out so much and all these things. And she felt guilty giving into it, so she would resist it.
mm,
And that going through the 31-day self-care program, because we talked about cyclical living for women, it gave her permission to listen to her own innate wisdom. It
yeah,
wasn't laziness that was making her wanna slow down. It was wisdom. It was God's divine wisdom that is in our coding and our human design telling us, "Hey, slow down, rest,
yeah,
rejuvenate, refresh yourself." So in Ecclesiastes, which is a book in the Bible written by Solomon, basically the book of Ecclesiastes teaches us that there's a natural rhythm to life. And for most of the history of humanity, people lived that way. It was an agricultural society. People were farmers for the most part. People lived off of the land for the most part. There was no electricity. There was only natural lighting. So when the sun came up, the day started. When the sun went down, the day ended. There were candles that you could, illuminate, but you didn't want to spend a lot of money on candles either. So you used them sparingly typically. And it wasn't until the 1760s, Great Britain started the industrial age. So the industrial age is what took everything from this very rhythmic, cyclical, natural way of living with the seasons and basically said, "Nope, we're gonna become robots in a factory. Everything is about production. We want to produce, we want to manufacture, and, you add to that electricity, now you can work through the night. So it doesn't really
yeah,
matter whether the sun is up or not.
mhm,
Doesn't really matter if your natural rhythm is telling you that you need to sleep, you can work and you need to work so that you can put food on the table. So you're going to work and you're going to produce. So all of this basically led to a total restructuring of society. Before the industrial age, everything was very cyclical, natural. Humans lived with nature. After the industrial age, nature lost its influence on us and we started fighting against it. We started valuing work and productivity over rest and refreshment. This is
Interesting.
important. Okay. We started valuing work and productivity over rest and refreshment. This is important. We're going to come back to that in a minute. So stick with me. I know I'm taking you to school. We're going to do a quick little history lesson, but it's just for a little
Love
bit.
it.
It's just for a little bit and it's going to be worth it. I know this is not typical living beautifully style. Okay. Then you add to that capitalism. We want to make money, greed, right? Everything is about prioritizing endless growth and profit over natural rhythms or needs. People working themselves to a bone, or you're forced into year-round labor. Before this, people would naturally stop in the winter season. There was not much to do.
Yeah.
But now there's factories, there's electricity, and there's greed. People want to make as much profit as they can. And so they're finding ways to defy nature at the expense of our own human health. In the beginning, it wasn't this way. So this is really interesting. Do you know that the Jewish calendar is not our calendar?
Did not know.
Okay. The Jewish calendar, God's calendar, is not the Roman calendar. We live on the Roman calendar. Before the Roman calendar, there was another calendar. There were actually two. There was the Babylonian calendar and there was the Jewish calendar, but there's the Aztec calendar. There's a lot of calendars, right? There's the
Yeah.
Chinese calendar. Okay. So we live according to the Roman calendar, but the Jewish calendar, in Jewish culture, according to God's calendar, when God created everything, for him, New Year's happens in the fall.
Interesting. Oh, that makes sense. But okay.
Well, why do you think that makes sense?
Because fall's right before winter.
Okay, and why is that interesting when it comes to a new year?
Because that's like what we're talking about. Wintering is a time to slow down, inner reflect, grow those roots deeper. And it's not that's like the winter we know now. Right after that comes spring. So people are not slowing down in the winter, and it's like they're treating winter as like their spring still, and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, winter becomes this obstacle that you just have to push through and power through, and you keep producing. Yeah, but actually so God's calendar, New Year's happens in the fall, it happens at harvest time, and so the last big push of the year is harvest. And then a new year starts, and a new year starts with enjoying the bounty of the harvest. There's nothing left to do now. You're enjoying the bounty of the harvest, and then you go into a season of wintering. You go into a season of rest and replenishment. You spend time with your family and friends and loved ones in stillness. You're not go, 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 go. And in that space, you refill yourself, you refresh yourself, you refocus or realign yourself. And then you start again, right? Spring, and then summer, and then fall. But also, what's really interesting, this hit me a few years ago. I was reading in Genesis 1 3 through 5. We think about us, a new day starts with the sunrise typically,
Mhm.
right? The sun rises, and then boop, we wake up and a new day begins. But do you know that that's not how God sees a new day?
No.
Well, let me tell you. In creation's story in Genesis 1 3 through 5, it says, there was evening and there was morning the first day. God said, let there be light. And there was evening and there was morning. And that was the first day. The first day began with evening. The Jews celebrate Shabbat. I grew up keeping Shabbat. Shabbat starts at sunset. A new day begins at sunset, not sunrise,
Mm.
according to the Jewish calendar and the Jewish rhythm, right? And they're the ones that got this from God. This is how it was in the beginning. This is part of God's divine design for humanity, right? So even
Yeah.
think about that. A new day begins, and what do? We eat dinner and we go to sleep.
Yeah.
That's what we do at the first part of our new day is it starts with refilling, nourishing, and then resting ourselves. And
Wow.
then we wake up and we're refilled and we're well rested and we finish the day.
Wow. Mind blowing.
To me too, because we don't live in a culture that values rest. Most
Nope.
people don't even know how to rest.
Oh, no. For
But
sure
rest
not.
is part of our divine design, and it's of high value in God's kingdom.
Yeah.
And if we wanna live these abundant, beautiful lives, we have to learn how to value rest. And what better time of year to learn how to practice rest than in winter season?
Yeah.
A new beginning begins with rest.
This makes me want to get a cottage in the middle of the forest and live a new way because it's just so intriguing and it just sounds great, like intuitive.
It's so intuitive, right? Like, you hear it and you're like, "Of course, that makes so much sense. Why have we been doing it opposite all this time?"
Yeah. And are you speaking specifically cuz is this like a humanity thing or we're speaking to the woman because we are more cyclical beings? Like,
No, this is for male and female.
oh,
This is nature's natural rhythm and cycle. However, men operate on 24-hour cycles. We operate on average 28-day cycles, but it
yeah,
can be 35-day cycles, right? But we as women have monthly cycles, men have daily cycles. Men cycle with the sun, women cycle with the moon,
interesting.
okay? So men can push through and power through, and it actually helps build their testosterone, and they feel invigorated in it. It's much harder for men to rest. Men have a harder time resting because they actually don't need it as much. They do need
Yeah,
it. I mean, it's biblical. God commands us that on the Sabbath, on the seventh day, we rest, right? So
right.
rest is included in the weekly cycle. And then there's so many laws about rest in the Old Testament, about letting the land rest, about relieving people from their financial debts. That's a financial rest, right? There so many things. I'm not going to go into all of it,
Yeah,
but rest is a very important part of being a highly functional individual and being a highly functional society. And when we don't know how to rest and we don't value rest, remember, because what do we value? Work and productivity.
yeah,
We value busyness. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I don't even use the word busy. I'll say
yeah,
life has been very full lately, but I am a 100%. I am never busy.
yeah,
I'm not busy. I don't like busy. Busy overwhelms me. I wasn't created for busy. I was not created to live a busy life. No, I was
yeah,
created to live a purposeful life. And sometimes the most purposeful thing I can do is rest.
yeah.
There's nothing lazy about that. It's the most productive thing you can do sometimes is rest. So where did New Year's resolutions come from? Ever ask yourself that question?
Nope, nope.
Because that's where my mind goes. I'm like, "So where did this even come from? Why are we all doing this nonsense?" Like,
Yeah,
"What?" You know what I learned?
What?
Its origins are in Babylon. Dude, 2000
Wow.
BC. It was part of a festival. So the Babylonian calendar is different than the Roman calendar, and it's different than the Jewish calendar because their new year begins in spring.
Mm.
Okay, so our new year begins in winter. The Jewish New Year begins in
Fall.
and the Babylonian New Year began in spring. And so in spring, for their New Year's, they would have a 12-day festival, which made me kind of think of the 12 days of Christmas. But anyways, they had a 12-day festival where they would make vows and pledges for the new year to their gods that they would have a good harvest in that new year. And then it was adopted by the Romans and incorporated in religious practices as well to their deities. And then it became secularized in the 17th century as self-improvement, not religious vows and pledges, but now it was just self-improvement and popularized in the 19th century. And it was popularized because of capitalism and marketing. They started advertising New Year's resolutions as a way to sell. If we can tell you all the problems that you have with yourself and what you should improve about yourself this year, we can sell you a lot of stuff. We can sell you those gym memberships.
Mm. Yeah.
We can
Wow.
sell you the diet programs.
Yeah.
We can sell you all the self-help things. That's the history of the New Year's resolution. It has roots in Babylon.
Yeah. Crazy. It's designed to keep us in a cycle of failure.
It's designed to keep making us feel like crap about ourselves, 100%.
Yeah. That's
But listen to this. Okay, so this is from pewresearch.org. 49% of 18 to 29-year-olds set at least one New Year's resolution every year. 49%, 18 to 29. The number goes down. 30 to 49-year-olds, it goes from 49% to 31. So by 30, people have become a little more delusioned. They're like, New Year's resolutions don't really work for me. I'm just not going to set one. And then by the time you hit 50, it goes down to 21%. 21% of 50 plus year olds are setting New Year's resolutions every year. And listen to what most people's New Year's resolutions are about. Because, people set more than one New Year's resolution. Is this interesting or am I losing you because I'm taking you to school too much?
no, I love it. I love school. I'm
Okay.
learning. Like
Okay.
mind blown.
79% of people are setting New Year's resolutions or people who set resolutions. And again, that statistic goes down with age. But 79% of New Year's resolutions have to do with your physical health, weight loss, fitness, muscling up, whatever, right? 61% have to do with money, make more money, get out of debt. 57% have to do with relationships. 55% have to do with hobbies or personal interests, and then 49% have to do with your careers. But listen to this. Of the people who are setting New Year's resolutions, 80% give up within the first month.
Yeah.
In fact, January 19th is known as Quitter's Day because most people have quit by or on the 19th of January. But the fact is the majority of people are not even making New Year's resolutions anymore.
Wow.
What's the problem with that?
I
How could that be a problem?
Because I think that's the opposite spectrum. They go from all excited about New Year's resolutions all the way to giving up, defeat, hopelessness, and there's no vision or direction for moving forward in any way.
We just quit on it. We just go, That's where I was at. Screw it." It's that very fixed mindset, right? It's all or nothing. I'm
Mhm.
either making the resolution or I'm not. And the problem is most people are not progressing in life.
Yeah.
Most people are struggling with the same thing in the same way day after day after day, month after month after month, year after year after year. That's not living either. That's not cyclical living, because when you look at nature, everything grows and expands year after year after year after year if it's healthy.
Yeah.
So if we're not mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally growing and expanding year after year after year after year, then it's indicative of the fact that there's some unhealthy stuff going on,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Because the sign of health is growth. So we give up on New Year's resolutions because we think, I'm not going to do them. And then for some reason, we have it in our mind that this is the only time of year that we can make changes. So now it's just like we're just kind of living up, going through day to day. Nobody's making New Year's resolutions. Nobody's actively trying to change anything. And we're just coasting through life. But when we
Right.
start living rhythmically, when we start living and we start aligning ourselves with the body's wisdom, I'm calling it wintering, okay? Where you lean into the season and you allow yourself to rest and you allow yourself to refresh and rejuvenate and refocus and realign. That time that you spend wintering is meant to prepare you for spring. And spring is the season for new beginnings. Spring is when we plant the seeds. Spring is when we start new. Summer, we get momentum, we go. Fall, we begin to reap the benefits. Winter, we slow down, we rest, we integrate, we keep with the progress that we made the last year. We realign, we refresh, we let some things go, we renew, set new intentions. Spring starts again. And then what happens? Now you're living in this rhythm cyclically, where every year you're growing, you're healing, you're expanding. You start developing a growth mindset in life, right? And
Yeah.
what's really fun, we're going to talk about this in the new year. You can do this monthly as a woman as well. You can do this
Beautiful.
monthly as a woman as well.
Yeah.
This has changed my life. This has changed my life. Why do most people give up on New Year's resolutions? I think it's because they have unrealistic goals. I think it's because they don't have a plan. That's what wintering is for. A lot of the time, they would evaluate, how did this last year go? How did we
Mhm.
do last year? What went well for us? December is not the time to do that. There's a lot of pressure to do that in December. I used to put that pressure on myself as well. And I've learned it's not the time to do that. We're so busy with the holidays and Christmas and all the social gatherings, and we're already putting more on our plate than we're cyclically capable of handling. So we're pushing through December. Once January hits, this is the time to rest. This is the time to evaluate, do a little bit of a life audit, think back, okay, we would be in January 2026. Okay, let's think about 2025. Let's think about all the different realms of our lives, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, relationally, physically. Let's think about all of the purpose, right? Joy, pleasure, leisure. Let's think about all these different realms of our life that make a life whole. And let's evaluate what went really well in each one of these spheres. What didn't work so well? What might we want to tweak next year? And you spend that winter season taking inventory and setting intentions,
Mm.
coming up slowly, giving your space and time to come up with a very intentional plan of action, right? The other thing is why people give up is all or nothing thinking,
Yeah.
right? That fixed mindset, which is all about the results. And if I don't get the results, I quit, versus a growth mindset. And then a lot of people lack intrinsic motivation. We might be doing it for the wrong reasons. We're not actually that convicted about it. We're doing it because we're changing these things because There's external pressure to change it for some reason, and that's not enough. We don't have a strong enough why. Sometimes we fail at making changes in our lives because we're focused on what we don't like about ourselves, and so we're motivated by guilt and shame, and that's not ever really good enough to sustain any long-term change. Since learning about living cyclically, you didn't learn about wintering per se, but you learned about the 4 seasons every month. You learned about your winter, spring, summer, fall every month, right? Your menstruation phase, your follicular phase, your ovulation phase, and your luteal phase, and how menstruation is winter, follicular is spring, summer's ovulation, luteal is fall. So you were practicing living in the flow of your cycle, and you've been doing this for a couple years now. What has seasonal living changed in your life? How has it changed your life?
It has changed, I feel like, the fruits that I produce because with each season in the month, I learned how to tap into what each part of that month was requiring of me or what energy I could output to each thing. For example, in ovulation, I'm feeling energized, creative, inspired, spunky. I could definitely creatively tap into new projects or putting my energy and all into specific things that maybe need it more at that time. And then when my period hits, I can relax, give my body that rest and nourishment that it needs so that I'm well prepared for after my period. My hormones start to rise back up and kind of just depending on whatever's needed. But it's just produced better fruits in my life each month. And yeah, but it's not like in a again, not in a performative way of that's what's needed, but it's just helped me to flow better in life in that rhythm. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that it's also changed your relationship with the natural seasons? I don't know that we ever like coached into this specifically, but just intuitively living seasonally through your monthly cycle, did it ripple into how you live seasonally in the year?
I do remember we touched on it in coaching because I was we were still working together in the new year, and so I remember you talking to me about this wintering and not like teaching me not to set like New Year's resolutions and looking at it from that perspective of, self-reflecting and setting my intentions. So I remember that, but yeah, I not that I've noticed, but being back on now and growing these past few months, it's reminding me next month I'm looking within. Not
Yeah.
that I don't, but
For me, I think breaking up with the whole New Year's resolution thing and not looking at January 1st as, okay, hit the ground running. It's a new year, new goals, da 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 da. And what it's done for me is it has helped me to learn how to live more cyclically and seasonally. I think that it's helped me develop more intentionality in my life because, like Ecclesiastes said, to everything there is a season. So it's like, okay, what season am I in and what is the purpose for this season? But also in that, what's been really beautiful for me, and I remember you and someone that we mutually know, you guys used to both kind of make fun of me for how intuitive I am. This was years ago, but like, you're so intuitive. And even the other girl, and she would say, I'm not that intuitive. I'm like, no, and we all have it where some of us are just more in touch with it than others, especially as women. Women are highly intuitive beings. Now, intuition and instinct can be two different things, right? We can have instincts that have been programmed by trauma and hurt and grief and fear, and we can mistake that for intuition. But true, pure intuition is deeply spiritual. And the healthier that you become, the more intuitive you become.
yeah.
Right? But letting go of the external pressures of what I'm supposed to do all the time and learning to be more intentional has actually taught me I think it's become the pathway back to my own intuition. Even in cycle syncing, we learned that there's different foods that your body needs at different times of the month. Naturally, your body needs different nourishment depending on what's happening with its hormonal cycle. And when I started learning about that, this was probably like 5 years ago now, what I realized was there were things that I would be craving at certain times of the month. And when I started learning about cycle syncing, I was like, this is my body's wisdom. My body is telling me I need this thing. And I
Mhm.
actually have to listen. I used to get upset with myself for certain cravings that I would have because it wasn't part of the diet, and then I was like, "Oh, it makes sense. I crave different things at different times of the month." There's a time of the month to eat more keto, and there's a time of the month you can totally thrive more vegan, but there's a time where you need your meat. There's a time for everything, right? And so leaning into that has really reconnected me, I think, with my intuition and has helped me learn to trust my body's wisdom because I think, especially as women, so many of us have been through different types of physical trauma and
Mhm.
our bodies are not safe and we don't
Yeah.
trust our bodies. And we can see sickness or pain or whatever issues that are coming up in our body as problems that we have to overcome instead of invitations for healing. It's the body is trying to work with you and for you. It's not trying to work against you. But a lot of us have this mindset of, "Ugh, it's me against my body. I have to whip my
Yeah.
body into shape." And we're even taught that as young girls when we start our menstrual cycle. And sometimes it's painful or it wants to knock you out for a couple of days, and we see this as this horrible thing. I remember growing up, and I don't know if it was like a 1990s cultural thing, but your menstrual cycle was called the curse. Like, oh, the curse has come, It's like this terrible thing. And so we create all these judgments around our bodies, and our bodies become an enemy. But our bodies are part of what makes us sacred, and they are part of God's divine design, and there is so much wisdom in the body. The body houses so much wisdom, and when we learn how to live in union with that, life takes on a whole different level of ease. Again, it's never easy, but there's an ease to it. And it does get easier, but we'll talk about cycle syncing. It's helped me develop a growth mindset. It's helped me with my productivity. I have become way more productive and I've accomplished way more in my life since I've started living this way. You think like, I can't afford to rest. Rest is not a luxury. Rest is vital. You can't afford not to rest. You have to figure out what are the lies you're believing about yourself, about your life. What are the agreements that you've come into that are preventing you from choosing, valuing, protecting, prioritizing rest? You were created by God to rest. The day began at night. Rest was vital. In a 7-day weekly rhythm, there was one day set aside for rest. Rest is vital. It is essential. It is not something that we judge or that we fight against or that we say, I don't need to do this. If you don't honor your body, your soul, and your spirit's need for rest, it is part of God's design for your life. It will affect you in some way, mentally, emotionally, physically. It will affect you. Relationally, it will affect you. A lot of the suffering that we have in our life is because we are not giving ourselves permission to rest enough. It's true. And yes, maybe you're listening and you're saying, well, Tanya, it's easier said than done. Absolutely. It's much easier said than done. You have to untangle yourself from everything that you believe about your identity, about work, about provision. I mean, there's so many layers here. I didn't plan on going here, but somebody has to hear this. There's so many layers that keep us entangled in choices in our lives that rob us from the rest that we are entitled to as created daughters of God. And when we don't believe the truth or we're operating from wounded places, which I think we talked about this in episode 4, Mariah, where we talked about dysfunction and what is dysfunction. And dysfunction is lies we believe and wounds that still need healing, right? So if there's lies in our soul and in our spirit that we believe about ourselves, about how life operates, about God, about others, if there's wounds in our soul and our spirit that still need healing, then we're going to entangle ourselves in this self sufficiency. We're going to live as orphans that need to look out and care for ourselves all the time. And we are going to push ourselves 24/7, 365. But it doesn't have to be that way. It might feel like it has to be that way. That might be all you've ever known. Your nervous system might be programmed for it right now. Your nervous system might not even know how to rest. But you can learn how. You can heal. You can recover what is rightly yours in Christ, part of his original design for your life and what you have been entitled to as an inheritance because you are his child. You are a child of God's because of Christ. Rest is your portion. It is your inheritance. You are entitled to it. So if you're living a restless, weary, hustle, busy life, you're settling for way less than what God has given you. And there's conversations to have around that. And again, never to judge or belittle or shame or condemn, but it's always from this place of compassionate inquiry. What lies am I believing that prevent me from leaning into rest? Why can't I take a day off? Why can't I say no to things? Why do I feel like it's all on me to take care of everything all the time? Where did that belief structure come from? I'm hitting a nerve. I can feel it. I'm hitting a nerve in somebody. You don't need to live with that heavy burden on your shoulders. If you go back all the way back to the very first episode of this year when we did for the weary woman, and I talked about how Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my burden is light and my yoke is easy." And we talked about what that word yoke represented. It was not it was not the farming tool that we often think it is. At that time, it was a Jewish idiom that symbolized a rabbi's teaching. And Jesus is saying, "Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my teachings upon you. Take my teachings upon you." Jesus wants to teach us how to live lifestyles of rest. This season of winter is the perfect time. It is the natural time for you to learn how to lean into that rest. And yes, you might have to fight against some belief systems. You might have to fight against some mindsets. You might have to learn how to bring rest back into your physical somatic body because you've been in fight or flight for so long. There might be lies that you're believing about your identity. That's a spiritual issue that you have to identify and bring before the Lord. What am I believing about myself? That I put these pressures upon myself. Why is it hard for me to choose, to value, to prioritize, to protect rest? We should have rest in our lives every day. We should have rest in our lives every week. As women, we should have rest in our lives every month. And as human beings, we should have rest in our lives, a season of rest, wintering, a season of rest in our lives every year. And if we're not allowing ourselves to embrace that lifestyle, then we have to do the inward work of dismantling everything within us that stands against what we were created for. I just took you to church, Mariah.
So good. I was locked in. So good.
So we touched on this really briefly. What is wintering and what is it not? What do you think?
Wintering is not giving up on life.
And when you say
Yeah.
giving up on life, do you mean like giving up on your responsibilities?
Yeah,
Okay.
like you can still have things in your life if you have kids and a husband, like things that you are responsible for taking care of in your life, but it's not giving up on life and just saying away with everything. I'm just going to go lock myself in my room and just lay in bed forever. That's not what it means.
Right. No, 100% right. And there are times where like this week, I was really sick this week. This is the best that I've been all week. But I have another part-time job and I could not get coverage and I had to show up for work. There are times where we do have to push through. I'm not saying that you usurp your responsibilities. I probably would be greatly benefited if I had just given myself another day in bed today to rest. I talked to my mom on the phone this morning. She's like, "You're gonna do the episode today?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna push through. I'm metting up and I'm gonna push through. I'm praying for energy and I'm gonna give it my best shot." And then I came prepared with all my notes because I'm without these, I don't think I could be getting through. They're keeping me on task and I'm pushing through. But I don't live a push through life 24/7, 365. That's the difference. Yes, there are moments where we have to show up and we have to do what we don't feel like doing, but that should be a moment. That should not be our lifestyle. And then, yes, sometimes we're creating more work for ourselves than necessary. Sometimes we have these unrealistic standards and expectations for ourselves, and we busy ourselves and create never-ending to-do lists. We take on more than we actually have the bandwidth for, and we burn ourselves out because of it. We have a hard time delegating because nobody can do something as well as we can do. So I'll do it myself because I can do it better. But now, girlfriend, you're doing everything and you're doing it alone.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that we subconsciously do that make it difficult for us to find or create rest in our lives. And we self sabotage in that way. But rest is not usurping responsibilities. Rest is not, crawling into bed for all of winter and not showing up to work and not taking care of your kids and not cooking for your family. Right? That's not rest. Rest is not just binge watching shows and binge doom scrolling. Rest is not isolating. You might long for more solitude in the season of winter, and that's totally normal. We don't love to do huge social gatherings. Typically, we do them around the holidays. It's very festive and traditional. We're kind of conditioned to do it. But when you really think about it, you kind of just want to be in your own cozy and the people you're really comfortable feeling alone with. That's what we long for at this time of year. Summertime is different. Summertime, everybody's out on the lake, everybody's paddleboarding, everybody's doing all the things. We're very social beings in the summer season. But winter, we tend to want to go back into a state of solitude where it's me and the people that I'm the closest with and mean the most to me. Wintering is a posture of active rest. So what does that look like? It looks like intentionally choosing to slow down. It looks like practicing self-reflection. I know we talk about it so much here because it's everything. Wintering is shedding what no longer serves you. Again, we touched on this before, right? Looking back, okay, the last year, 2025. What worked well for me? What did I do well that I want to celebrate? Where did I see growth? We always want to recognize those things and celebrate them. What did I have courage to try and then I totally failed at? Okay, well, why did I fail at that? And is this something that I want to try it again next year? And if I'm going to try it again next year, what lessons can I learn from this year that I can implement into my new year? So it's this time of self reflecting and shedding what no longer serves you and then setting new intentions. Think of it as time to take care of and nourish your soil, the nutrients in your soil, which is where everything in your life grows from, and your root system. It's everything below the surface. That way, come spring, you're ready to start implementing the new growth. It's a great time to create vision and plan for your new year. I love around this time of year. I used to do it in December. Normally, I do it the week between Christmas and New Year's because I will take that week off work and I will create a vision board. And I will just prayerfully think about my year, and I'll give myself that week to really do a lot of deep self-reflecting. I sometimes do some fasting. I do a lot of solitude. I don't connect with a lot of people that week. That week is between me and the Lord, and I really spend time reflecting on my last year and casting vision into the next year and connecting with what are the heart's desires that I have for this upcoming year. And for me, I love to create vision boards or prophetic boards or prayer boards, whatever you want to call them. Winter is a time for you to nurture your spirit, your soul, and your body. So even maybe watching less TV and getting more crafty, turning down all of that external stimulation and getting a little bit more quiet. playing a record or some classical music instead of the loud upbeat music. All these little tiny minutia changes that you can create to just change the frequency of your life, to invite yourself into a posture of slowness and stillness and silence. That's what wintering is. So how do you do this? What has helped you learn how to winter in a culture that pushes you to be in summer all the time? Summer and summer and summer and summer. Fun, social, produce, busy, momentum. What has
Yeah.
helped you lean into winter, wintering?
Feel like just recognizing when I am starting to feel that need to hibernate and feeling like I want to slow down, I just won't make as much unnecessary commitments. If I don't need to do 3 things in one day, then I won't, or I'll manage my commitments better. Um, and then, like you said, also maybe not making as much, socializing meetups. And intentionally sitting down and self-reflecting and setting my intentions. Although I will say I've not been the best at intentionally sitting down and self-reflecting. I don't think I did that really this past beginning of the year. I was I was pregnant, and in January I was focused on maybe that is my form of wintering. I was preparing for when Benny was going to come.
Girl,
So
you were nesting.
I was nesting
You were
there, yeah.
nesting.
Yeah, yeah, I was nesting, and that there wasn't a whole lot that I was doing. I was I was working up until February, so I was still, but you know what, though? Now that I'm thinking about it, God was totally helping me, I feel like, winter in that time because he my work schedule changed, and I was working from home a lot, so there was a lot of rest I was getting there without me even, like, pushing for it. It happened. It divinely happened in that way. But yeah, anyways, yeah, yeah, yeah. So this year is different. I'm gonna practice my wintering.
Yeah.
Mm,
But, also what I've really respected about you, Mariah, is it's your son's first year of life. He hasn't even had his first birthday yet.
yeah,
And there's a lot of pressure that women put on themselves to bounce right back to the same level of everything that they were doing before they had the baby. And what I've noticed that you've done really well is you've almost had a little bit of a wintering season this year with your son. Like, you're not overextending yourself. You haven't tried to put pressure on yourself to go back and get a job, even though I'm sure it would benefit you guys, but your family has restructured its life in a way that supports your need to winter with your son and really spend that first year focusing on healing and bonding and attaching. So maybe because you're living it, you don't see it, but I'm on the outside looking in. It's very countercultural to what a lot of other women might want to do what you've done and convince themselves that they can't.
yeah,
And you leaned into it and trusted that with God you could, and your family made accommodations around it to make it possible for you because of your mutual shared family values. Right?
yeah,
It takes a tribe. So, I think that that in and of itself is really beautiful. Whereas a lot of women, I think we might have that instinct, that intuition, but we don't
yeah,
lean into it and we don't trust it because we think we're not worthy of it. We don't wanna be a burden. We've taken on responsibility of being the caregiver, the provider. We've stepped into certain roles we were never meant to step into. And now we shoulder the brunt of that responsibility and we're feeling bitter and burnt out but I think for you, you were really able to go, "Okay, what is the most important thing right now?" And I know
yeah.
we even talked about this. You sent me a Marco Polo about this, I think early this year, and you were like, "If I hadn't gone through Living Beautifully, I think I would have had my son and gone right back to work because that's what I would have found my value in was what I could produce." And,
Yeah,
and so for you to, like, recognize that at that moment and go, "This is where my values were different, my priorities were different." And people say they can't do it, but even what you touched on, like God made a way, are we our providers or is God our provider? And do we
Right.
need as much as we think we do, or can we really learn to live as God instructs us one day at a time, trusting that we have everything that we need? Maybe not everything that we want, but everything that we need, that our
Yeah.
our daily supplies will be met. Again, it's our belief system, it's our mindsets, it's what we belief system specifically about our even our identity and what we're responsible for and where we find our what we find our value in. These are the internal subconscious, unconscious things that drive the course of our lives like a rudder on a ship, a rudder, udder, rudder,
Rotor?
rotor,
I
route.
don't know.
Just kidding. Okay, now I'm just milking it. I again blaming my cold, fog, and menstruation brain. A ship's rudder. But those are the belief systems and the mindsets that are oftentimes operating in the subconscious. So what you want to do, and winter is a great time to do it, is take an inventory. Do a life audit. What is the toxic fruit? What is the weak fruit that your life is producing? That's a symptom of something going on in the root system or in the soil of your life. And if you recognize, man, I have a huge aversion to rest. There's not enough time, there's not enough money. All of that is scarcity lack mindset, okay? But and I'm not invalidating any of it. I know it feels so real to you, but that is not your portion. We have to compare ourselves to what Christ has made available for us. That is the standard for our lives. And then anything outside of that has to go. It has to go. So, winter is a great time to do that deep inner self reflection work and take a life assessment and go, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well, and what intentions do I want to set and spend time casting the vision, dreaming with God, and then also creating a plan. How you want to activate the plan. Now, we make our plans and God guides our steps, right? So everything we create, we always want to bring back to the Lord and say, God, I'm going to move forward with this, but I'm going to trust that you're going to guide and direct my steps. I believe in dreaming with God. We talked about this also. Like, we're not called to create our own lives. We're called to co create with our creator. He knows the plans and purposes. He knows what he has waiting for us in 2026, the good things, the hard things that we might have to walk through. And he wants to prepare us for everything. Um, mm, I'm starting to crash. My brain is turning off. So I think this might be a little bit of an abrupt ending, but I think we're going to end here.
Okay.
Is there anything that's not been said that you think might be worth saying before we wrap it up?
No.
No?
I feel like you touched on everything and you've tangible examples of what it is and what it's not, and good questions for people to ask themselves. And I guess the only thing I do want to add is if you're feeling stuck in this process, it is good to invite wise counsel into your process and have a good sounding board. So, highly suggest coming to the holding space.
Yeah,
Especially, that's
or
cool. That's in January.
yeah, or working with me one-on-one,
Yes,
even better,
exactly.
because 'cause you're not
Even
gonna get
better.
a ton of one-on-one time in the holding space. That's more
Hmm.
community setting, and there's certain measures of healing and growth that can only happen in community, but there's also certain measures of healing and growth that can only happen in intimacy and in that one-on-one, direct, intentional connection. So,
Yeah.
but I like I said, I think last week or the week before, I do have a few open slots for some one-on-one clients. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me and let's see if it's a good fit. I did have some questions that I can leave you with to consider. So push pause, go grab a pen or pencil and a journal and come back and hit play and write these down because these can be great questions for you to reflect on as a new year begins. But one of the questions would be, where have you felt the cost of trying to be on all the time? What would shift in your life if you stopped expecting yourself to operate the same way year round? How would it feel for you to shift your new beginning, like the fruitfulness of your new beginning, to March or April and align that with springtime? Take the expectation off of yourself for that to be right now and really lean into wintering. What is one thing you can let yourself stop doing in January? Where might you need a little more gentleness with yourself? What practices, routines, or rituals might help you feel more wintered, more grounded, more rested, more held this season? A couple last ones. Where do you feel God inviting you to rest instead of rush? And what can you do to support your winter season so that come spring, you are actually ready to flourish?
So good.
And with that, I want to thank you again for being here with us. It's been such a joy to create these episodes for you every week. I've had fun having the conversations, getting ready for them, editing them with Mariah. It's been a labor of love, that is for sure. But it's been one filled with so much joy. And also, I want to say, if you're not yet sharing the episodes, this might be a great one to share. Don't you think? It's a very, like, non-threatening, like, this is permission to rest. Like, what woman doesn't need that? This is
Right.
permission to start a new year in a new way and not feel like you have to change everything overnight. Who could not benefit from the permission that we're offering through this episode? So share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with your Bible study, share it with your coworkers, share it, share it, share it. Help us to get this light and love into the world. You guys can be our little living beautifully fairies, sprinkling the episode everywhere you go with all of your people and helping get the word out that there is a different way to live. I think next year is going to be a really exciting one. We have a lot of fun ideas in the works as far as different things we're going to talk about here. We have really fun guests that we already have recorded a few episodes with. And then I have a little bit of a list that I'm dreaming into with the Lord of women that I would love to bring on here because their work has impacted me so much, and I want to share these women with you. So, dreaming big for 2026 in this space. And we hope that you'll stick with us along the way. Mariah, thank you so much for doing this with me this year. I
Of
wouldn't have done it
course.
without you.
I wouldn't have done it without you. No, but thank you for inviting me.
It's been such a joy. And Bethany, if you're listening, we've missed you, and it'll be so nice to have you back next week. Once things settle in your world a little bit. So I'm delaying it because this is it. This is our final goodbye for the year.
Wow.
Happy New Year, my friend. See you in 2026.
Happy New Year.